Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining today. My name is Souza. I'm a solution architect on the FastTrack team at Microsoft. And today I have with me Eric Dipple. Eric, you want to say hi?
Sure, thanks, Carl. Eric, I'm with the FastTrack team as well, principal solution architect on that team with you.
Awesome. Yeah, really good to have you on the show today, Eric. And Eric, I heard you're going to show us some really cool stuff about the schedule board in field service. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. There's some great things we can look at with the schedule board and how you can have the schedule assistant experience tailored to what the dispatcher would like to see.
Very cool, very cool. And I've always wondered, like, we have the schedule board here and we have the schedule assistant. And I know you're going to talk to us all about the difference. But yeah, what are we looking at here?
Definitely. So we're looking at the schedule board, and you can see I've set up a couple of tabs that I want to use. There's a tab that shows just those resources in my territory that I'm responsible for, but it doesn't have any crews on it. And then I have another tab here that just would show all of the crews and everybody in my territory. But for today, what we're going to look at is this one that just shows my resources with no um, crews on them.
Interesting. And you said your resources. So what does that mean? How do you get your resources in there?
Great question. So I can click on select resources and
Uh-huh.
choose the resources I want. And once I have them all selected here, apply that. And then I
Yep.
can save as default. And that's
Very
going to
nice.
save that list. Now that's only for this schedule board tab. So I can set up tabs with different default lists of technicians to show.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm seeing all
Yeah,
these
just
different colors and things over
yeah.
here on the right. What's going on there? That looks cool.
Everybody's aware that you can really change or configure that schedule board to look how you want to. So I happen to like my non-working hours to be this yellow color, so it really stands
Uh-huh.
out a little better. Um, and set that up. Some people like to change the current timeline color. Any of these can be set. And my schedule assistant experience that I'm going to get can also be tailored to what I want to see. For instance, when I open the schedule assistant, I only want to see resources that are visible on my schedule board. When I'm booking stuff, I want everything I look at to be based on that estimated arrival, not necessarily when they have to start driving to get there at that time, because I don't care about the drive time. I just want to book based on when they should arrive.
That makes
And
sense.
yeah, and I kind of like it when if a resource that is on my schedule board is not available, I still want to see them there, but maybe show them in kind of dimmed out. So I know they're there, but they're just not available. For today, I'm not going to demo that feature of it, but what we're really going to look at today is how these settings and even my board colors can really carry over to my schedule experience.
Very
So
cool. I'm
a
excited to see
great
this. Yeah,
yeah,
let's
a
see.
good example of that. I'm going to use this let's use a unscheduled work order here, and let's use 5177. And if you notice, there's no promise windows, there's no time windows on it. Right now I'm looking at on my schedule board from the 15th to the 17th, and I'm going to go
Uh-huh.
ahead and do find availability. This is opening the schedule assistant. And
Right.
the
So this right here, if I pause you right here, this is actually the schedule assistant right here, right?
That's correct. Yep. And
Right.
you
And
can
we
even
what we
see
just
this.
saw was the schedule board, right?
Yeah, and
Cool.
it's the schedule board is still there. We just kind of changed over to that schedule assistant
Uh-huh.
experience.
Very
And you
nice.
can see the schedule assistant knew I was only looking at 15th to the 17th. So it
Okay.
started with that same range because my work order doesn't have any time windows on it. Now, if my work order had a time window, my search start and end would have defaulted to those values. But for this purpose, I wanted to show what it's like when you don't have that. The other important thing to look at is the must choose from resources. Remember, I had that setting that I only want to see resources from my schedule board.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Schedule Assistant was smart enough to know that, and it brought in and said, hey, these are the only resources we're going to show to Eric because these are the ones from his schedule board. If
Very
I
nice.
change over to that Gantt view, maybe a lot of dispatchers like to be able to just see the boxes here, but notice even here in the Gantt view, the existing bookings are showing some extra information like I saw on my schedule board, the colors, everything's
Uh-huh.
following that feel and experience of my schedule board itself. And from
Very
here,
cool.
I could book. So let's take a look at another way to get to that scheduling experience, Carl.
Okay.
You can see I have that same work order open.
Uh-huh.
And there's this book button here.
Yep.
If I click the book button here, it's going to bring it up. And the first thing to notice, the range it's looking at is from the 15th all the way to the 21st. It didn't
Huh.
stop on the 17th. You'll also notice that it didn't pre-filter any list of resources, and it
Interesting.
restricts that. If we jump into that Gantt view, the boxes aren't showing the same information. And even those colors, unavailable working hours look different here, as you could see on your screen. It's a different
Right.
color that
So
you're
none of
seeing.
that, right. So none of that stuff that you had on your schedule board is carried over here.
Exactly.
Because, yeah, I mean, how would it know, right? Because this is just a
Right.
generic button on a work order, right? Yeah.
Yep, for sure. So the first thing you're probably wondering is, well, what settings is it using when you click on this book button?
Yep.
So let's jump back into my schedule board. And remember, I went into those settings and I
Uh-huh.
set up all of those settings the way I like it to work. So you could see here, set board settings. This is for my schedule board. But down here at the bottom, we have this edit defaults. If I click on that, we're now looking at the settings for what we call a default schedule board tab. It's not something you see in the schedule board itself. Nobody would really see it. And think of this as kind of like a template for any new tab that a user is going to set up. So when they
Okay.
create a new schedule board tab, it always starts from the default settings. And you can see there's the same settings are here on the default one. So the default is set up for showing all resources, which it should. The default shouldn't try to filter resources for a certain person, because this applies to everybody.
Sure.
All of these settings are different than what we had on the other one. Same with things like board colors, you can see are different. That's what's happening when you click the book button here. It's using the settings from your default schedule board tab.
Got
It's
it.
also the range when you have a work order that doesn't have any time windows on it,
Uh-huh.
then the range it's going to use will start at today, and it will show however many days have been set up in that default schedule board tab.
Very cool. You know, one thing I was going to ask you, Eric, is on the schedule board in the box, you have the showing Eric D uh, box there, right? Um, so you customized that. You
Yep.
customized that a little bit. How would someone do that?
Yeah, definitely. So here in my, if I go back into my schedule board settings
Uh-huh.
right here, and we go into all of your settings you have available,
Yep.
under schedule types, if I go under here to work order, you can
Uh-huh.
have a custom booking template. For today,
Okay.
Carl, what I turned on is I just added some text here that really lets us know that we're
Yeah.
looking at a custom template, and how cool it is that this custom booking template can be different on every schedule board tab that I set up. I can have those templates different. Maybe I'm setting up tabs that are for different lines of business, and I
Yep.
want that those boxes to show different information.
Uh-huh.
Again, what's great about doing it here and then using Schedule Assistant from the schedule board, that will carry over to your Schedule Assistant experience as well.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And and the edit defaults there, so you're saying like, you don't really want to change those defaults because it's going to change it to anywhere that the
Yeah.
default tab's open, right?
Yep.
Which is the book button.
Right.
But
Yeah,
you
it
get,
affects
yeah.
all of your dispatchers. Everything, when you click the edit defaults like I did, and you're editing this one, you have to remember it's going to affect all of your dispatchers when they're
Yep.
creating schedule board tabs, or if they are using the book button, it's going to affect everyone. So you have to be really careful with those. Um, really encourage your dispatchers to create their own tabs. Don't be afraid of allowing your dispatchers to have their own tabs and
Uh-huh.
tailor not. But what's great is they're not only tailoring the schedule board experience, they really are tailoring that schedule assistant experience right along with it.
Yeah. Wow. Cool. So Eric, I'm gonna ask you one final question here, right? Because it seems to me like, if I'm a dispatcher, I have all of this great customization and personalization by going into the schedule board and saving my own schedule board tab. I don't think I really need to go into the work order to hit that book button because I'm not getting the same great experience, right? So is that a fair statement?
It is, but we're not advocating against the use of that book button.
Okay.
There are times when it may be useful for that. What I'm really advocating for is it's a better experience if you train your dispatchers to leverage this find availability. As a dispatcher, I can still open up my work order and I'm still in the schedule board. The schedule board's right behind this window. But if I want to look at products and services that are needed and want to see the information of this work order, I can see it. But work with your dispatcher so they know, don't use the book button from here. Once you're ready to schedule it, just close this window and tap on find availability. And they're getting that tailored scheduling experience as well, just like they have a tailored schedule board experience. So that's really, important to look at. And if you do find your dispatchers are wanting to open the work orders directly and then click book button, that's probably a good indication we should take a look at how you've set up that schedule board and what's missing here that a dispatcher needs so they don't have to go into the work order and use the book button from there.
Sure. So
Yep.
takeaway, train your dispatchers to use the schedule board, get them using the schedule assistant. They're going to get some nice productivity gains, it sounds like.
Yep, for sure. And it just gives them that consistent feel as they're working with it, Carl.
Fantastic. Eric Dipple, thank you so much for this. It's been super helpful.
Thank you, Carl. I appreciate it.